Hey everyone, welcome to a little bit of woo. I'm your host Jill Thomas. Oh my god, you guys today. So you guys in the comments, people put comments all the time suggesting things, right? And usually it's either a porn site or a cult. So I like at least one of those is obvious when I go there. Okay, and I know this one's not a cult, right? But this time I got a suggestion that I should have a particular guest, and I was like, okay, wonder what she's selling. Turns out I went to her site and I saw these great videos and I loved her. And I'm like, you know what? Her and I could be
Oh,
friends. I gotta see if this person will say yes if I ask her to be on my show. And she did, you guys. I got Phyllis King. She is known as the Common Sense Psychic. She has been featured on, oh my God, I love this list, by the way. Featured on ABC, CBS, NBC. Did you not get on Fox News? Come on. TV and radio shows across the US and the UK. Her current book, The Energy of Abundance, is available at bookstores now. I'm assuming we can get that on Amazon. Is that correct, Bill?
oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. I love it. How did you not get on Fox? Because I love no, I'm just teasing. I love this list. This is awesome. How did you get on all of these shows? I'm amazed. I'm always impressed when people are able to do that. So good job.
Well, I mean, that's a whole marketing question, but I think when you're in the zone of writing a bunch of books and trying to put yourself out there, there's a whole network that you plug into that gets you on all these platforms. And
You know
yeah.
what? I do know about that network, but you do have to be connected. So you're obviously better connected than I am to get so good job. Respect. I'm just gonna say respect. One of the things I love about you, because I was looking at I always nosing around. I always nose around to see, who who I've got as a guest. And I saw that you do these really neat monthly energy prediction videos where you tune in. They're pretty short and they're always, I was looking and like I can't remember what she's talking about. Like they're always spot on. And I do like that they're short and concise, and if kind of it's not political and it can fit to anything. Can you kind of tell me how you get that? Do you just sort of meditate and tune in, or how does that work for you? How does that flow for you?
Well, I see everything in patterns. Everything's energy to me, and everything looks like energy moving around. And I'm been doing this a long time, so I'm practiced at feeling outside of myself, if you will. And it's not, you can think in the micro, like if you're sitting next to somebody close at a restaurant or in the stands at a sporting event, you can, oh, you're right next to me. You can kind of feel the energy. Well, it's just an extension of that, of feeling out into the intangible realities, if you will. And so I just begin to perceive the patterns of what it feels like in the coming days and the coming weeks. And it's just a way of tuning in, I guess I would say. And I just interpret what it feels like to me.
I love the way you're describing it too, because you're describing it in woo in terms that are are not so woo woo. That I think an average person can tune in and think, okay, well, this I kind of probably do that a little bit too. I love how you're describing, and you actually teach classes on how to do this. Is that correct?
It's true. I'm actually in the middle of a clairvoyant training program right now, and it's really fun. It's really fun because a lot of people have some sensibilities and they've had them for a long time or some version of it because they come in different packages. I'm a seer, and there's feeling and there's auditory. There's a lot of different ways people perceive, but there's tools and techniques we can actually use to enhance what we have and tune out the things that distract us and make it difficult for us to see, as the word may be.
Oh, I
But
love that.
yeah.
We'll talk about some of those distractions. What do you think? Because I mean, lots of people are having these sort of intuitive awakenings, but they're getting caught in I'm guilty of this. They're getting caught in TV. Like they're getting caught in distraction of the media. And tell us about some of those distractions. What do you think people are kind of challenged
Well,
by?
I'll tell you, the biggest distraction most people have is other people's energy in their own field. And it becomes
Oh,
so normalized, we don't even recognize it. I was having a conversation with a student this morning, and one of the things I say at the beginning of the class is these first techniques you learn, you're probably going to be done with a few friends within a couple of weeks. And like clockwork, stuff starts happening in their personal life because they've tolerated things, or people, I don't, it's a kind of a weird word to say, but it's like they're energy vampires. They climb in our space. They like us to be certain ways and do certain things. And we sort of accommodate for all kinds of reasons. Like we can go emotionally very deep. And then when we decide, I really want autonomy. I really want autonomy over my own space. Put the mask on myself first before I put it on somebody else. And as soon as we start clearing out what does not belong to us, it gets much clearer what's mine and what's not mine. Another word is boundaries. So
I love the word energy vampires, because I know that's 2 words, guys, but whatever. I love that because we can hear that and know exactly what you're talking about, and I love that you're describing it as really like people at home, family of origin. I mean, I imagine I'm just picturing the psychic kid, maybe because that's what I was, the psychic kid, living in a household with 2 narcissists and trying to figure out why everything seems so weird. I love that you're describing it, and I love the idea of like jettisoning saying no and jettisoning people in your lives. A little harder when
yeah.
it's a spouse.
Well, when I first started doing some of these techniques that I teach now, not that I wish this for you, but I did divorce my spouse within a week.
Oh, I love that. Oh my God, you must be in a
Not
state
that
where
I
it's
want
not
that to
that hard.
happen to you and your
No, no,
spouse.
no,
God, no.
not this
Um,
one.
yeah, and as you were saying,
He's
one
great.
of my students in my class, she had a big old raging argument with her mom, and then a friend, and it's because these things have been burbling at the surface for some time, and we just sort of acquiesce and push it down. But then when we really want to claim our energy for ourselves, it's required. We can't have that interference, and we've normalized it, and so
I
it's a
was
new
say
normal.
it's a great way of putting it too, because you guys hearing this may, oh my God, I don't want to like take a class like that and then suddenly realize I have to divorce my spouse. By the way, this doesn't happen. You don't always have to divorce the man, right? But it can be a matter of, as soon as you release and remove some of those interferences, I'm jealous of your client because I can see what comes after, right? Suddenly
Right.
she's gonna start getting a lot more intuitive hits. They're gonna be more accurate, and a
Well,
world looks
but
different.
beyond that, we start to become more effective in our daily life, whether you're at a corporate job or, whether you're a police officer. I mean, it really doesn't matter. You're just because you're hearing your own wisdom, your own guidance. There's not this interference. You think of it like if you were watching a TV station and you're channel 7, but all of a sudden there's 5 different channels interfering with what you're trying to watch or hear on TV. It's like you just like, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? And you're not gonna get the message. You're not going to be as effective.
I love that. That is a great advice. You guys all listen to that. That's a great advice. That's great advice.
Mm.
Um, a lot of what I'm hearing with my clients, and a lot of what people are concerned about, and we talked about this off before when we were having some very Mercury and retrograde issues with our thing about money and financial stuff. Tell me, you kind of tell us how we can align to the most prosperous, or even, even if you have something to say on that, the most prosperous version of what life could be. How can we shift that? Or how can people shift?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Oh, okay. Well, pick a piece
We
of it.
like
Say
loaded,
something.
but mainly in baked potatoes. Okay, so here we go. I think it's important to understand that we all are born with a level of magnetism, which, some people's magnetism is stoked up to a raging fire and they come into wealth when they're born. Others have a little teeny flame for whatever reason and they're born into poverty, if you will. The magnetism can be enhanced. Uh, that's the first piece through right relationship to self, right action in life, right meaning being in the flow of life, not going counterclockwise by being aggressive and mean and awful, but by being a contributor and just learning to be your best self, heal yourself, things of that nature. So that stokes your magnetism, makes you more magnetic to higher vibration frequencies, if you will. I mean, that's the first thing that we have to know, that we have to be in a position to attract first of all. Then the second thing is being intentional. Most of us are not intentional. We just flop around from thing to thing to thing, and we've sort of heard, or we're supposed to do this and we're supposed to do that, and then we graduate college or we don't go to college at all. We're just going to get a job, and everything is laid out in front of us, but we're not really orienting from our own inner voice of where do I want to go? What do I actually want to have? And then the last piece to this puzzle is we have to understand if we want the energy of, let's just use $1 million, that has a certain vibratory complexity. We have to match that internally. We have to become $1 million internally. And that's a more complex conversation, but that's the gist to your very dynamic and potent question.
I love that you're able to answer that in like 3 minutes. I'm like, this is gonna take her all day. I'm just gonna
You thought
grab
the
a
whole
beer.
interview would be over. You'd be going for lunch soon.
God, this is gonna take her all day. I love what you're saying, and what I'm also hearing and you're saying is that you're changing your vibrational frequency. I'm gonna go further and say, aligning to figuring out what you want. What does that have to do with relationship? Like, because I noticed on your website that you also do, matchmaking, which I thought it was like super cool.
Well, I mostly do it for my clients or a referral of a client. It's not like I put out there because I've done a lot of love coaching over the years, and I watch people really struggle. And I know a lot of people, and I mingle with a lot of people, and I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a go because I became part of a matchmaking. I'm part of many matchmaking communities at this point, and I'm going to see if I can help people kind of do that one step further. And it's been a real education of a sorts, because what I've learned is that sometimes I can and sometimes I can't, but it's really not in my hands. That I feel it's divinely orchestrated in many respects. When the time is right, the time is right. But what I know to be true, whether it's money, whether it's love, whether it's job, whatever, we put up unintentional impediments to receive the very thing we say we want. And that's a big piece of the pie right there. But yeah, matchmaking is a whole interesting thing, because you get real up close and personal when you're with someone about, hey, do you want to go out with this person? And you watch how they choose and what their process is. Oh, well, their hair might be a little too dark, or they might be 10 pounds too heavy or too light, or it's like, oh my God, no wonder you're single. It really turns the lights on.
I love it. I
Yeah.
bet you learn a lot about human nature from that too. I was only
It's
thinking about it,
fascinating.
I was thinking about it in terms of prosperity. It's like the most important decision you can make financially is not which college you go to, is who you marry.
Yeah, truer words were never spoken. Truer words were never spoken, because who you align yourself with will either push up and stabilize you, or suck the very life out of you and take you to the depths of places you don't want to go. You don't want to visit there.
I love it. And also, coming back to kind of what we were talking about with the family of origin, like, if you grew up in a household where people were poor and there was some abuse going on, I imagine it could be really helpful to see someone like you, or and just and God forbid a psychotherapist too, to like heal some of that and have a buffer time in between, so that you're actually aligning to the better match. Would you agree with me? What do you think? Am I
Yes,
kind of
and
oversimplifying it?
I think that everything touches everything else.
Mhm.
Whatever direction in your life you choose to up level, it's going to impact every other level. It just depends on which area you want to focus on most, right? But I think for some people to know that there is hope, that there is life beyond hardship, because you put 5 people in a room or 10 people in a room who've been abused or had alcoholic parents or whatever it is, and maybe 1 or 2 of them are excelling out in the world, and the others are like, how did they do that? Why do some people excel and why do some people don't? And that's a whole nother conversation. But it is important that some people can show that there's a path. And by the way, this is why I speak in the language of energy, because it's not it's not off-putting, and most people can understand what energy is. We're taught about it in grade school, from grade school on up. And you can conceive, oh, if I just shift my energy, or if I think about this in terms of energy, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can change.
I love that. That's a great way of putting it. And I love your analogy about the 10 people in the room, because it is, to me, it's always astonishing to see who succeeds who doesn't succeed is a little more clear, but like the person that grew up in a family that was just shockingly, horrific, and then they go on and get a PhD in molecular biology, and I'm like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
But they brought something into this world that was different than the others. I don't know.
Yes.
It's
Well,
unique.
we all have something, and this is, and everything is connected in this life, in this world, but we are here to help each other. And if you allow yourself to be helped and think that that's a good thing, it's not a competition, then it tends to go much better for you.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's a good way of putting it. That's great. Um, so something you said that, let's go back to when you went to, the Spark. Some people are born with a better attractability, is what kind of heard you say, to let's say let's just say money because it's easier to, and then other people are born with a little bit different. Do you feel like the person with let's just say the dirty wooden spoon in their mouth rather than the silver spoon, they have the ability to become the multimillionaire, the guy that, or is that it's kind of predetermined there a little bit? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
It's both. It's often predetermined. I think we come into the lifetime with different ideas about what we want to be or how we want to grow or the directions you want to expand in. And what I understand about money magnetism and how money occurs is we tend to be as wealthy as we believe we are. And so that's a lot of it. When you already have wealth or money, you're not worrying about it. You don't think about it the same way as when you don't have it. And most of the time, when I'm coaching people who are working on their money space, all they have to say about money is negative. I don't have enough. I have all this problem. I have all this debt. It's never going to work out for me. I'm so scared. Oh my God, I don't want to have to borrow this from that. Everything comes from this negative, small scarcity place. And, people who have money are more like, oh, maybe I could invest in that, or I think I'm going to risk this amount to get there. I mean, they're thinking about next steps and investing and how can I get a return on my money. They're not thinking about I don't have enough.
I love what you're saying too, because like I grew up in a faith that had a lot of emphasis, like money is a kind of the root of all evils business, and
Oh,
that, and I remember thinking like these people that are they're saying how
right.
bad money is and all of that, they talk more about money than my rich friends. They talk more,
Right,
they seem
right.
to be more fixated on it than my very affluent clients. And one comes to mind that I'm thinking of, this guy that would show up in this ancient, like I think it was like an F-100 pickup truck. I mean, I don't want to say it was like a 1970s version of pickup truck. Guy was like a gazillionaire. I mean, I can't even tell you what he did. He's not famous, but yeah, he had more money than God, right? Maybe not quite that much, but a lot of money. Never would have known. But he drove this ancient pickup truck, and he had a brand new BMW for his wife because he did some research and found that it was like the safest car, and he wanted his family to be safe. He wasn't worried about himself, but he loved that pickup truck. But the attitudes about money that I saw with that person and with some of my other was very different than the people I saw who came in with the BMWs who couldn't afford it. And so it was kind of fascinating to watch.
It's because what we're working with is the consciousness we're using to navigate our life, which is what you talked about. Can someone who's born into poverty become the millionaire? Of course they can, if they have the discipline and the focus to change their consciousness, because that's what creates everything. The consciousness we're using creates tangible matter, or it creates the energy, which creates the tangible matter. And, we're working in this fluid universe, but if you believe you are poor, and this is where the idea of what is wealth, what is success, because like I said, somebody who's got $50 but is spiritually attuned, but they know how to navigate through the world and perfectly content. They don't know they're not happy. They're sleeping in the park and they like it. They're on the beach every day. They like it. And someone with $50 million is worried about losing their money potentially, and they have to manage their money all the time. So they end up being trapped by their circumstance because the money is controlling them. So it's like, who's richer? Who thinks it's really a mindset of who's wealthy. So once you
Love
work
that.
with that mindset about your consciousness of what is wealth, and you set a determination for what that is, it gets easier.
I love that way of looking at it. Here's a woo-woo question, and if you don't have an answer, it's fine. It's totally fine. So let's just hypothetically, like what's going on in the current world. So if you're somebody who's really freaked out by what's going on in the current world, are you kind of aligning to the energy of not good stuff coming, or are you aligning to how can you shift that alignment so that you see it as opportunity rather than we're all going to die?
Well, for me, you really have to zoom out. And you have to zoom way out, which is really what spirituality always wants us to do, is to look at a larger picture, and I try and always stay one element above the fray. So when I look at like the political spectrum, to me, this is like people living their karma out in front of us on a big stage, right? And I don't really have any influence over that. It's a little bit like celebrity. It's like it's a different, people who are demanding attention and give me attention. Not that all actors are negative. I'm not saying that, um, but I think on an energy level and karmically speaking, we're in a time of transition. And all of us know whenever we want to take a step up in life, we have to give something up or we go through some type of hardship. If you're going to move to a brand new home, you got to pack up the old one, get out the old stuff. You got to sell the home or whatever, clean up the home if you're renting and try and get your deposit back, whatever the thing is. And, then it's arduous to move and unpack. I mean, it's a lot of work. And so I think that life itself mirrors that it can be a lot of work. And certainly there's elements that if you pay too much attention to it can be really distressing if you're like me and I don't tend to enjoy human suffering. But it's like I trust that there is a greater plan at work, and I trust the not only the karma but the life path of each individual to be able to navigate their circumstance for where they are in their own evolutionary pattern. So that's how I make sense of it.
I love that analogy too, and I love the way you're describing it as like characters on a stage, because at some point I had a dream of like the current administration, the Trump administration, is somebody, and somebody may do this. And if it's you, feel free to take this idea. Somebody's going to turn these into like baseball cards, like like Beckett, like all these characters.
I'm surprised they haven't yet.
They probably have. I mean, somebody in the comments is going to say, "Hey, you know what? You can get that right now on the Topps website or something." I don't know, but like, because that's a great way of describing it. And the fight between Elon and Trump, and then Trump and Powell, it's hilarious to watch. You just want to grab your popcorn. But I love the way you're describing it as a play, because when we're seeing it as that and the karmic playing out, and not, oh my God, we're all
Well,
gonna
and
die.
all of those escapades going on between those people you mentioned, it was predictable. It was obvious. That's all that ever happens. This has been a rinse and repeat for quite some time.
Oh
But
yeah.
and they're just, I'll step outside of the lines a little bit here, but I was speaking to someone yesterday just talking about how organized and intuitive and thoughtful women are about interpersonal relationships, and women are the spiritual leaders of our families. And I'm like, it just makes so much sense that we would be great presidents, but we haven't been able to have one yet. And how unfortunate that we only get the male perspective leading our country.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I kept thinking, I really do hope that it's in my lifetime, and I'm like, well, I've got a lot of years left. I
Well,
probably will be.
oh, here's hoping.
I love it. I love that.
I trust that it will occur, whether or not it's in this lifetime. I don't know that it matters. I know that it will
Right.
occur eventually, because I think when um, that balance always wants to restore itself, and so it's in the best interest of humanity and the planet that the feminine energy be a part of the creative process, and especially when as it pertains to the most powerful nation on earth.
I Very well said. Very well said. Um, what do you think? I mean, because you're talking a lot of, I love that you've got a lot of clients and you're talking to a lot of them about money. What are their big concerns right now? Is there anything specific that's kind of the big theme? Are they worried about investments? They're worried about Powell. The jobs report just came out
You
this
know,
morning. Oh.
they are different levels. I have some who are looking for work and
Mm-hmm.
worried
Mm-hmm.
because it seems more difficult to find employment, taking longer times for them to get jobs. I have some who are playing the game of bureaucracy of, if they're not doing well in their health condition or whatnot, trying to keep their job while they're navigating their benefits or this and that. So there's games that are being played. Some people who have a lot of money by any standard, worrying about some of their investments, but they think in the longer term perspective, not the shorter term perspective. So overall, I'm not hearing anyone. Of course, I have a certain network, probably, but I'm not hearing anyone talk about massive abundance right now. I'm not hearing anybody saying, "Oh wow, this is just a fantastic time to buy a house," or "Oh my gosh, my investments are just through the roof. Oh my gosh, I have more job offers than I can feel." I'm not hearing any of that. Any
I
of
love
that.
that. I was gonna ask you about that because I'm like, people always book an appointment for a reading when things are going bad. They don't book it and say, "Hey,
Right.
Jill, I'm just calling to tell you
Yeah.
everything's great."
Yeah.
So I get a skewed perspective too. But I was like, I liked talking to you about that because you do coaching and you talk to people in different kind of
Yeah.
spheres of.
Well, but I will say I did have a client this past week who messaged me just to say she met somebody. She's been struggling with relationships, and I just wanted to tell you. And then she goes, "And what about?" And she said his name, so and so who, because she's been lamenting over this person, and all of a sudden she wasn't even in her radar anymore. And I'm like, yes,
Oh my god, I love that. I love that. Like the old guy that they were so worried about. Who? You know,
yeah.
I burnt
So
his.
I do get those updates from time to time.
Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, of course. When it comes to investments, I was just thinking of like copper. Like 2 days ago, I think he said he took the tariff off of copper. Uh, and I was thinking about if you had been one of his, if I'm not saying this happened, but wow, what if you had shorted copper just before like that came out? Yeah.
And I'm sure that didn't
No,
happen.
I'm sure that didn't happen.
No, it could never.
No,
There's such
no.
integrity out there in that
Yes.
administration. It would never
Yes.
bend the rules,
No.
never.
I mean, it could have even happened just
Sure, we'll
like
believe that.
like by accident, you had some press person like, "Hey, can you type this up? About 1 o'clock, I'm gonna tell everyone I'm taking the tariff off. And don't use your phone for the next 2 hours to call your Robinhood app, or yeah. I'm sure that didn't happen. Nobody in the history has ever. By the way, as we're laughing about this, you guys, we know. I'm sure I can speak for Phyllis on this one. We both know that happens on both sides.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's not just one side. It's the and, I follow this guy on TikTok who rates the financial integrity of political figures in Washington. And he
Oh, I
basically
gotta take
goes
down
and
that
looks
list.
at all of the stocks they invest in, where all of their donors come from, and 90% of them on both sides of the aisle, there's no way those people can be down listening to their own voice because they are beholden, I mean, to their stock interests. It's really remarkable. And what's fascinating to me is even though there's different political figures who I like less than others, a lot of the ones who are the most outspoken and offensive are the ones who don't receive corporate interests. They are free to
Really?
speak their mind. And that's fascinating to me because I was like, "God, that person, I wish they would just be quiet. I don't want to even hear their voice." And then I look at where their donors come from. It's all small donors. I'm like, no wonder they get to speak their mind. And all the rest
Wow.
is just a blending of a sort of a message. So
That's
pretty
interesting.
fascinating
Who's that
stuff.
TikTok? Can you say that TikTok? Because I would love to watch that.
I'm not
I'm laughing my
remembering
ass off, by the
his
way.
name right now. I
Yeah.
should.
Somebody in the comments knows who you're talking about, and they'll put that in. So
Yeah,
thank you for that. Please don't put a porn site. I mean, come on, I don't want to have to delete something like that.
yeah.
But that is, yeah, that's awesome. I love that it's like 90%.
Yeah, I was shocked because I was assuming all the people in the political party that I support were going to be squeaky clean. And some of the people that have been around Washington a very, very long time, it's like, oh my goodness, you're as bad as any of them. Oh my gosh, I can't believe a word you say. And so I'm just like, why even bother? I mean, it's just the whole system needs to be flushed out and fresh people.
That would be very nice. Yeah, the reason I think of his copper is because it dropped 20% in
Oh,
1 minute. It was like a record. Like it was a record that couldn't even have been possible in the 30s because we have the machines. But
wow.
yeah, I was like, oh wow.
Pretty remarkable.
Wish I'd shorted copper. Wish I'd thought the short copper. Anyway, but you guys watching this, we're laughing about this, but there are opportunities like that. If somebody's getting an intuitive hit, don't I am not a financial planner, so don't listen to me, but you know
Well, and what I would say to that is one of the reasons I don't sit in that energy too much is because it doesn't impact me. I always say, my abundance is really not tied to Washington, D.C. or what happens there, that I work at a different level. I, I align with the vibration, not the individuals. And so, sort of a higher voice, if you will. Back in 2008, I think that was the recession of the housing market
Yes,
crash.
I remember that one very
Those
well.
several years, I tripled my income in those years because I think it was a lot talking about how abundance is created, and it just really blew up from there. But I don't know. And I'm still to this day, I don't ever worry about money. I don't ever think about it in the terms most people do. I think about aligning with the right vibration and being committed to that.
I love it too. And I think, kind of what I'm also hearing with you is that, this is something you enjoy and it's fun
Mm.
for you. And so aligning to that energy feels good. You're not trying to make yourself, and I'm putting words in your mouth, but I'm assuming this is what you mean, that you're not trying to make yourself do something you don't want to do because it makes money. You do something that's fun, right? What am
Well,
I?
yes, I want to make sure that the energy is correct behind what I'm doing. Correct meaning the highest vibration. So, for instance, I wrote a book back in 2014, 15 called The Heart of the Matter, which is a workbook, but there's a lot of really heavy, heavy stuff in there. It took me, I think, almost 3 years to write it with my editor, and there was a lot of crying that went on in that. And it's still a very worthwhile book. And that book did well, and I still utilize that book. But then when I did The Energy of Abundance, whenever I sat down to write it, I made sure the energy was flowing. I felt good about it. And as soon as it didn't, I stopped. And that book continues to do really well to this day. And I just think it was the origin of the energy. Of course, people love that topic as well. But, and then in everything I do, I just try to make sure the energy is correct and that what I'm putting out will have a side effect on the other side of being positive for others.
I love it. And I love too how you wrote something first and then you'd like course correct it a little bit. You're like, this was a little too much, I mean, I love it. It was for you, it was crying. It was like I was cursing with my first book. I was like, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Somebody said writing a book was going to be easy, and I'm like, they are full of it. What were they smoking? That was a lot of work.
It's the writing the book is easy. It's the
Yeah, you're
editing
right.
it,
It was the
and I
editing.
get so tired of reading it over and over and over. And now it's like people will say something to me about one of my books, and I'm like, they're like in another universe. What? I wrote that? Okay.
That was brilliant.
I
You
don't
should
even
follow
want to
that advice.
remember it
Yep,
anymore. It's like
yep,
I
yep,
had to
yep.
read it 8,000 times.
I know. I have flashbacks of what you're describing because I remember that editing process. Like I am so sick of this book. I will never read any of it again. And oh, I love what you wrote on page 167. Well, you're just
Well,
gonna have to
it's
read
no
it to me because I don't remember what that was.
And it's no different if you put a song on the radio and play it over and over. Like, I'm going to play this song I love 100 times, and you play it 100 times. I've had enough of this song forever.
Oh, I love it. I wonder how like Ozzy Osbourne feel. I mean, I know he's passed, and I cried my eyes out to the song "No
Mm.
More Tears." By the way, his song
Um,
More Tears, bawled my eyes out. But I wondered as I was hearing this, like how he probably had to sing that every time at every concert. Do he still like that song at the end? I don't
well,
know.
I think at that level, I think it's more about pleasing the fans and watching and getting off on watching them be happy.
That's a good
That's
way of
that's
putting
a
it.
high unto itself.
That's yeah. Considering his personality, I'm sure you're right. That's a good
Mm.
way of putting
Mm.
it. I love this, Phyllis. This has just been beautiful, and I love this. I
Okay.
want to make sure that I covered anything that you want to say that I didn't think to ask you. What would you like people to
Oh.
know?
Everything's going to be all right. I mean, truly, if things are not going well in your life, it's just because the story's not finished yet.
I love that. And I am going to put all of your contact information in the show notes. So, in the link in the description, but some people are listening to this on a podcast. How can they reach you?
The best way is my website, which is my name, phyllisking.com. Most of my social media is at intuitivelifestrategist.com or not .com, but intuitive life strategist or common sense psychic. And I'm
And it is
everywhere.
It is Phyllis with 2 L's. Ask me how
Two
I know
L's,
this.
one S.
Spelled it wrong a million times typing to type her
And
email
there's
address.
a couple fake websites and things out there, but I'm .com. I'm not .net, .org. I'm none of those. I'm .com. So.
Yeah, you're smart. You got your name. I'm telling you, you guys are ever thinking you're ever gonna write a book right now? Go to the GoDaddy and get your name. Just saying. Just go ahead and do it. Also, and if you can't figure out how to spell what I just said, look for Energy of Abundance on Amazon. Her name will pop up, and there you go. Anything else? I'll give you the final word, Phyllis, because you're
It's
awesome.
been so great to be with you, and thanks so much for the great questions and the great energy. It was a real pleasure.
Awesome. Okay, we'll stick around for a sec, okay? Thank you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Oh my God, did you just like and subscribe? Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's so kind of you. We really want this message to get out there because, what Phyllis is describing is something that's really relevant to everyone that's going on, abundance. And just if you can get some little piece of how to shift your energy so that you can bring in more abundance, whatever that looks like for you. I love that for you. I would love everyone to feel more prosperous, to have more choices. I always think of money as choices and opportunities, and that anything you can do to bring more of that in. And if you could like this video so that other people will see it, very much appreciate. We both appreciate that. So I'm Jill from A Little Bit of Woo Woo. Thank you so much for coming, and I'll see you again next time, you guys. Okay, bye. Thank you.